We're joined in this portion of our program on The Fan, Sports Radio 66 and Sports Radio 1019, WFAN FM. On our program, we'd like to get into interesting discussions. Matt Crampton is joining us this portion of our program. He's the co-founder of Gigwalk, that's Gigwalk. He's remaking how work gets done, basically, at Gigwalk, and we're going to talk about that. Previously, Matt was a software engineer at Yahoo. He worked on Hot Jobs and was a developer at AOL. He is joining us by phone on our program. It's nice to have you join us.
Well, thanks very much. I'm excited to be here.
Gigwalk. How do you explain what Gigwalk is?
Well, it's a mobile work marketplace, and you can kind of think about it like it's a mobile temp agency. So the way it works is companies will come and post jobs on Gigwalk, which are called gigs. And a gig might be something like go take a picture of the menu at a local sushi restaurant or record the price of every brand of shampoo at your local Walmart. And then people who want to get paid doing those gigs can download the Gigwalk app from the App Store, sign up, and then they can find gigs all around their local area on a map. They perform them and get paid once they're complete.
Okay. The idea for doing this and making these kinds of connections, where'd this come from?
Well, so when you mentioned I was at Yahoo before.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we were working on over there was kind of around the local search area for Yahoo search. You know, you go and search for pizza in New York City, and you'll come up with a list of pizza places. The problem with that is that pizza places go out of business of about 10% every month. That's what restaurants do. They turn over about 10% a month. And so you can imagine that those listings get stale very quickly, and without a good way to go and find out, which restaurants are where and kind of updating that data, you're going to have bad search results very fast. So the idea was right around 2011, which is when Gigwalk was getting started and all that, was that it was just about then that we had kind of enough people running around with smartphones in their pocket that it started to become obvious that we could go and mobilize all of those people, give them financial incentives to go and do work, and build a platform on top of them so that companies could go and give them jobs to go and complete out in the real world, distributed across the country.
When we talk about a mobile workplace, can you conceptualize for us how big that is?
Sure. So we've got 260,000 workers spread across 6,500 cities in the U.S., Canada, Puerto Rico. Companies range from, companies like Microsoft that use us quite extensively, sending workers to go and take 360-degree panoramic photos of the interiors of restaurants. Companies like TomTom use us to update their GPS data to make sure that, when your GPS directions tell you can turn left, and in fact you can turn left at that intersection. We do things like finding parking garages for Mercedes-Benz so that their in-dash navigation can find parking for you okay. But, we do a lot of work for companies that way much more into the retail space. So, a company maybe you haven't heard of before, Reckitt Benckiser, but you've heard of the products that they make, things like Lysol or Durex condoms or French's mustard. These guys are the largest producer of household cleaning products. And what are they using us for? They're using Gigwalk to do store audits, sending workers into retail locations to make sure that their products are on store shelves, that they're arranged properly, that they're in stock. Maybe there's a display that was supposed to be set up, making sure that was executed correctly, that kind of thing. And then they're going and talking to shoppers. They're actually doing interviews in retail stores, asking consumers what kinds of things they like about the products they purchase. All that data is collected by these field workers on Gigwalk, and then that data is collected by Reckitt. It's transferred back to their product team, and that's what they use to influence the products they make.
So just who demographically is doing this work?
Well, when we first got started, we thought it was going to be kind of a lot of students, a lot of, young people, that kind of thing, was sort of early adopter democratic folks. But as we got into it, it's really a slice of all Americans that are doing Gigwalk. We've got people that are baristas at Starbucks. We have real estate agents, accountants, anybody who's got spare time to go and do gigs. This it seems like a lot of people that don't work 40 hours a week tend to find a good second paycheck doing gigs on Gigwalk. And part of that is because it's flexible. It kind of lets you set your own pace and decide when you want to work, which jobs you feel like doing. And the other thing is that it kind of lets you explore the different kinds of jobs. You can come in and maybe you're doing store audits one day and you're doing maybe a secret shopping project the next. It gives you an experience in a lot of different kinds of work.
In an area like the New York City metropolitan area, obviously including Long Island, New York City, parts of Connecticut, this greater area, what kind of work are we talking about being available in an area like this?
Well, so right now today we've got around $18,000 worth of gigs posted in New York City. And, that number is changing all the time as gigs get completed, new gigs get posted. We go through quite a lot per day. We've got gigs paying $4 for taking pictures of menus at restaurants. Those 360-degree panoramic photos I was talking about from Microsoft, those are paying $5 or $6 a pop. In an urban area like New York, there might be 20 or 30 of those within a block radius, which ends up turning into quite a paycheck if you think that, one of those might take you 10 minutes to complete. Mm-hmm. And we've got, $40 mystery shopping gigs posted all over the place right now, sending people into motorcycle dealerships, doing some market research there.
Mystery shopping is something that in parts of this country seems to be really big.
Absolutely, and I think that it's only growing, this kind of work, especially as we start, having more brands that have an entire United States footprint. It's very difficult for those kinds of companies to be able to field a large enough workforce of their own to go and do this kind of thing. And as they, start realizing that they need to be monitoring their products across, thousands of cities at a time, solutions like Gigwalk become much more valuable to them.
All right, I have to ask the natural question because some of the people who are listening to our discussion today are thinking, well, wait a minute, this sounds like, a wonderful idea. In Gigwalk, have others come up with the same idea, or you have competitors?
Well, there's, everybody's kind of got a different take on kind of work in the cloud, as it's kind of called, especially in the mobile space. There's some companies out there. In fact, there's a couple of interesting ones I'd love to talk about. And these guys are kind of cool. There's one company that's called FOP, and they're a Swedish company. And what they do is they have people go out and take photographs that they put up for sale on their website as stock photography. And, stock photography are pictures of everyday places and things like landmarks and still life that are used by magazines and websites in their graphic designs. And then FOP users, they upload those photos, they're reviewed by the community, and then FOP sells those photos for $10 a piece, and the person who took them gets 50% of the price. And so, if you're getting $5 every time that photo is sold, that photo might get sold 5 or 10 times, and you're ending up earning money after only taking a photo once. Yeah.
It's interesting because, again, I'm thinking back to what you said about the change that has been seen in exactly who you might have originally expected would be doing this work versus who's actually doing it. And also the potential there for, people who, there are so many people who, when the unemployment numbers are released, and they were literally just released on Friday, people have this focus on people who've not been able to find work for some time, people who've been out of work. This is kind of a way that people might be able to, make some money on a part-time basis.
Well, absolutely. We've got gig walkers, really dedicated ones making $1,000, $2,000 a month just doing gig walk. And, these folks are going out there every day. They might be taking their kids with them, and they're running around doing 15 or 20 of these every day. And we think about it like it's a second paycheck for people. So if you're a barista at Starbucks or something like that, this might be a way for you to make ends meet. Maybe you're getting math tutoring for your daughter, or you were able to get braces because you were doing gigs on Gigwalk. We hear those kind of stories from our workforce all the time. It's really inspiring for us.
Okay. Now, part of the way that this is able to happen, obviously, is the fact that many people have smartphones that they are using on a daily basis. This potentially could change the whole way in which people work, or is it already changing that?
No, absolutely it is. One of the things that we're doing behind the scenes is that Gigwalk has an internal reputation system that's constantly updated as workers are doing gigs. And so what that tells us in real time is which Gigwalkers are doing the best work. And what that means is it allows us to give those great workers more complicated, higher-paying jobs in our system. So, if you take a step back, the way that we see it, we're moving into a world where instead of having to submit a resume, write a cover letter, and interview for temporary work, people will be chosen based on their job performance on tens or hundreds of jobs they've previously done inside of our system. And that means that Gigwalk delivers the best possible workers to companies.
So somebody could take this approach rather than, what you referred to as temping or contract work.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I noticed that you're the program manager over at the Electronic Information and Education Service in New Jersey. Is that right?
Yes.
So imagine if you've got, you need somebody to come in and do temp work for 8 hours. You could go to a temp agency and they're going to give you kind of the first person that walked off the street that gave them a resume and have them come in and do work for you. But instead, if you posted a job on Gigwalk, said you need somebody and these are the skills that are required, we can give you somebody that has done maybe 50 jobs inside of our system that's proven to be reliable, that's proven to have done good work, and has gotten positive feedback from maybe 20 or 30 different customers inside of our system. So you end up getting a much more reliable temp worker using something like our platform.
Mm-hmm. What about, we talked a little bit about businesses. Would government or government agencies also find a need and a use for services like yours?
Boy, I can only imagine. And crowdsourcing is kind of one of those interesting things that is kind of being approached from a bunch of different angles. And there's places like NASA uses things like this in virtually, having people go through and solve complex mathematical problems that NASA's been trying to tackle, and spreading that work out in a distributed way is proven to be very useful for them. In fact, that's how they developed the algorithm for aligning their solar panels on the International Space Station right now is just based on crowdsourcing a solution to that problem. And so, yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we've done kind of internally is, for example, when there was a big oil spill that happened down in Florida, we sent Gigwalkers down to take pictures of beaches down in Florida just to see what it looked like on the ground. And those kinds of things we can do very quickly. So if there's a disaster, you can deploy 100, 200, 300 people to go out and assess the situation, go and see what's going on over there. And when there's companies that are using us for doing market research, things like that, we kind of talk about those as kind of eyes and ears jobs. It's very observational, those kinds of things. But, we're starting to move into actual arms and legs work. So a company, will send a worker to go put up a display at a drugstore, or make sure if they see that products are arranged improperly on store shelves, that they actually will go in and fix them. These are kinds of things that just never really existed before at the scale that Gigwalk is enabling them to do it now.
As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of things like where people are monitoring or reporting on stuff like the red light cameras. This is a big issue in portions of our listening area about people who complain about these cameras and their accuracy. people reporting on something like that would seem like a natural type of job that could fall in this category.
Well, actually, that is one of the jobs that we have had inside of our system for GPS companies, is going out and documenting where red light cameras exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that information is actually used by those GPS companies as part of the information they provide in their GPS units.
When you mentioned that about the GPS companies, the first thought that popped into my head was they need an awful lot of information. So potentially there could be a lot of job opportunities.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. The way that Gigwalk works is that a job is posted into our side of our system, and then workers, using our iPhone app, will go and find it and apply to do the job and then start working on it. And when they're working on it, they're given an interface that allows them to go and kind of do tasks. So it might say that, hey, approach this intersection, take photographs of all of the four corners of it, and then they might be asked 10 or 15 different questions about what they're observing there, and along with photographic documentation of those things. So it's pretty complex, the kinds of data that gigwalkers are collecting while they're out in the field. And for a lot of companies, they're actually taking that data and feeding it directly into their own database of content. And so anyways, gigwalkers kind of turn into living, breathing sensors that are getting sent out into the real world to go and collect data.
The benefit for businesses, what do you say? How do you state that?
Well, so, imagine that you're a manufacturer and one of your products is shampoo. So you're going to be selling that shampoo in thousands of supermarkets across the country. You need to know, what are other brands of shampoo charging for their product? Is the price of shampoo different between New York City and Kalamazoo, Michigan? Actually, it is very different between New York City and Kalamazoo. Well, when your product is on the store shelves, what are those retailers doing on the scene? Is your product stocked adequately? Is your product out of stock? Is the display messed up? For a manufacturer to monitor all the places where their product exists would require that they keep a standing field workforce of tens or thousands of employees located everywhere their product is sold, which is obviously not economically feasible for most companies. So now you enter Gigwalk. You've got a workforce of 260,000 workers across 6,500 cities. Now these companies have a ready-made solution for taking all that work that they need completed and deploy workers to go and do it.
Where do you see Gigwalk companies like this approach to, the mobile work marketplace in 5 years' time?
So I think the evolution that Gigwalk has been going through, and we kind of got started, we're very much focused on these 10-minute-long jobs, very, very easy to complete jobs where somebody would go out, perform a task, collect a little bit of data, and be done with it. And as we've grown and we've started getting more complex, one of the things that we've done is we've started getting into these longer-term jobs, things that require a more skilled worker, somebody who's has proven themselves as being reliable. And as we've built those kinds of people up inside of our system and we've observed behavior of them, it's allowed us to post more complex work in our system, and that's the direction that Gigwalk is going. So today you'll find jobs that might pay you $100 that is a mystery shopping job that might take you a couple of hours to get done. Tomorrow we're going to start posting jobs that might take you 3 days to get done, and those jobs might be somebody needs a secretary to come in and work for them for a couple of days, and that's the direction that Gigwalk's going in. Is really kind of providing a platform on top of people with an observed work history across all of those folks that allows us to provide the right worker for any kind of job that's available out there. Contingent work is a $70 billion industry in the U.S. every year, and that's the direction that Gigwalk's going.
$70 billion.
Yes, sir.
On an annual basis.
On an annual basis.
Wow. And how much is that growing each year?
It's a good question. I don't know. I can only imagine it's going up.
Wow. Matt Crampton, who is co-founder of Gigwalk, our guest this portion of our program on The Fan, sharing an awful lot with us. You've given us many things to think about here and provided an awful lot of inspiration probably for some of the people who are listening to us to check out some of the things that you have shared. Matt, thank you very much for being kind with your time and joining us on our program. And certainly good luck with the Gigwalk as you continue.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.